All right, guys, here we go with math, lesson 3.1, our notebook notes, and we're actually going to do some practice in our class book, page 2. So, class book, pages 2. That didn't make sense. So you should have just watched Mrs. Preston's teaching video of getting into chapter 3 with lesson 3.1, being focused on multiplying greater numbers by powers of 10. So we just added kind of like a cheat page. I say a cheat page, but it's really a helpful page where we listed our powers of 10 written as exponents. So this is going to help us as we get into lesson 3.1. Before we get into our notebook notes though, let's make sure we have all our supplies. Notebook, pencil, of course we have a glue stick, and our scissors because we're going to be putting our notes pages in here. And I also want you to make sure you have volume 1. This is your colorful book because we're going to do some practice problems in here as well after we get our notes in our notebook. And then, of course, our blue math folder. You're actually going to discard, which means throw away, lesson 1.7. We didn't do this, so you can actually get rid of 1.7. So I'm just going to put it off to the side. And you should see lesson 3.1 coming right behind it. So go ahead and take that out of your folder. And you can put your folder to the side, of course. And let's go ahead and get our notes page cut out. And remember, you can pause this video and rewind anytime. This one you can actually rewind. So if you remember, because you just did some practice with me on your whiteboard, we are starting chapter 3, which will actually be our long multiplication chapter of whole numbers. But 3.1 has us focusing on multiplying greater numbers. That means numbers that are greater than our basic facts, like greater than 12, although we would need our basic facts to multiply, by powers of 10. And we're focusing on exponents. So make sure you have your highlighter too. So let's take our notes for 3.1. And we can just write 3.1 right here. So let's kind of remember what we just watched Mrs. Preston teach us. A power is a product that results from multiplying the same number over and over again. Now, anytime we see product, let's highlight that. Anytime we see product, we're going to think multiplication. So we're going to write our times sign, because product is actually the name for the answer to a multiplication problem. So if I'm multiplying the same number, let's box that, over and over again, that's what a power is. So if we're going to multiply 10 over and over and over, he has powers that tell us how many times to multiply him. So a power of 10 is the product of 10 multiplied by itself a certain number of times. So our exponent, let's just write an example over here and label some things. Let's do 10 to the 5th power and write it kind of big so you can label. The power is actually the exponent. That tells us how many powers 10 has. So when you see the word power, you're going to remember that's the exponent. Now the number 10, he's considered the base. And the base is whatever number you're going to multiply over and over and over again. Now we're using powers of 10, which we love because we love this guy, zeros, easy to work with. So there's some of your vocabulary. So if we look at 10 to the 2nd power, that means he has 2 powers. That's the same as saying 10 times 10, which equals 100. If we have 10 to the 3rd power, that means we're multiplying him over and over again 3 times. This little exponent can help me decide 10 times 10 times 10 should have 1, 2, 3 zeros. So he would be equal to 1,000. How about 10 to the 4th power? How many times would we multiply 10 by if he has 4 powers? Did you say 4? Because if it's 10 to the 4th power, that's the same as saying 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. And if we multiply 10 4 times, that means he's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. And that would be equal to 10,000. Well, this guy's missing the exponent, but we could tell how many powers he has because how many times did we multiply 10 over and over again? 5. So that's 10 to the 5th power. So that means he's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. And he would be equal to 10,000. Make sure you put those commas in there. So we can use exponents, powers of 10, to multiply by greater numbers. And when we hear greater numbers, that means numbers that aren't as easy to do basic fact-wise. And usually those are numbers greater than 12. So here we go. The heaviest ball made by a bowling ball company weighs 16 pounds. Always circle the number in a word problem we need to work with. Last week, the company shipped 10,000 of these balls. What's the total weight? We always underline the question and box keywords. Total weight of the bowling balls. Well, how am I going to do that? The heaviest ball, so one ball weighs 16 pounds, but the company shipped 10,000 of these. 10,000 of these. So I could find the total weight by saying 16 times 10,000, right? Well, this kind of walks us through what we should be thinking. If I know that 16 times 1 is 16, that's the same as saying 16 ones is 16. But if I use patterns to multiply 16 by 10, then 100, then 1,000, I could get to the 10,000 that I need to multiply it by thinking this way. If I know 16 times 1 is just 16, 16 times 10 would be my next power of 10. That means 16 tens or 160, because I would just need to add 1 0. Then I could think, 16 times 100 would be my next power of 10 I could use. Remember, I'm getting to 10,000. Would be, 16 hundreds. It would be 16 hundreds, which is equal to 1,600. What's my next power of 10? 1,000. 16 times 1,000 is the same as saying 16 thousands. And finally, if I multiply 16 times these 10,000 balls they're going to ship, that would be the same as saying 16 10,000s. And in that case, I would need 4 zeros. And I would get 160,000. So that means if I multiplied 16 times 10,000, I could think that's the same as saying 16 10,000s or 160,000 pounds. Okay? So each time we're multiplying by another power of 10, we're actually adding 1 0. Look, 16 times 1 has 0 zeros. 16 times 10 has 1 0. 16 times 100, and they all have that 16 in it, is 2 zeros. 16 times 1,000 is going to have 3 zeros. 16 times 10,000 is going to have 4 zeros. So when I get to my final answer where I'm asked to find the total weight, 16 times 10,000 would equal 160,000 because he has to have 4 zeros. These are powers of 10 problems today. How about this one? The company charges $85 for each 16-pound bowling ball. Over the past several months, the company sold 100,000 bowling balls. How much did the company earn for these sales? Okay, let's go back. We only need one of these numbers. The company charges $85 for each 16-pound bowling ball. Really, we're going to use 85 in this one because the question is telling us they sold 100,000, but it wants to know how much the company earned for these sales. So how much did they earn? That would be money. So if each one is $85 and they sold 100,000 of them, that would be 85 times 100,000. Or we could write it as an exponent. 85 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 10 to the 5th power. Let's see how much money they make. If they sell 100,000 bowling balls that each cost $85, how much money do they make? 85 times 1 is 85. How many zeros? 5. Whoa, that's $8,500,000. That's in, whoop, the dollar sign's already there. So if they sell 100,000 bowling balls at $85 a piece, they're gonna make $8,500,000. That seems a little dramatic to me. All right, how about number 4? Find 23 times 10 to the 3rd. Then we're gonna find 230 times 10 to the 3rd. So let's do the first one. Let's give ourselves 2 spots to do our work. We have 2 answers here. So let's look at the first problem. 23 times 10 to the 3rd. Well, if we're multiplying by a power of 10, we know 23 is going to be in the answer. How many zeros, or what does 10 to the 3rd equal? 10 to the 3rd is the same as saying 1,000, isn't it? Of course. So that means 23 times 1,000 would be 23,000. How about if I have 230 times 10 to the 3rd power? Okay, this is where it gets a little tricky because he already has a 0 in him, but he's not this guy. So we're going to tack on 3 more zeros. So 230 times 10 to the 3rd, that's 1,000, remember. We're going to add 3 more zeros. 230 has a 0 in him, but he's not the power of 10. So 230 times 10 to the 3rd would be 230 thousands. So we add 3 more zeros since 230 is the number I'm multiplying by. Just comma there. All right. Let's go ahead and glue him in to our math notebook. Very next page. You can see Mrs. Preston's keeping up with her notebook. This is the last thing we did in chapter 1. So you see what my notebook's looking like? Always the image that I attached to the lesson glued right next to it. Now, in the previous lesson, I had you go ahead and write out your powers of 10 answers. So we're gonna go ahead and do that too in our notebook. You hopefully already did that though, if you were following your course tasks in order. Okay, so this is what my lesson 3.1 spread looks like. I've got 2 pages going. Notes pages, powers of 10 pages. So let's go ahead and write these answers down now, because this will be a good cheat sheet for you. If it's 10 to the 1st power, let's remember that's just 10. If it's 10 to the 2nd power, let's remember that is the same as saying 100. And if it's 10 to the 3rd power, that's the same as saying 1,000. So remember, your power, your exponent, is telling you how many zeros since this guy's 10. 10 to the 4th power is the same as saying 10,000. It's just another way to represent 10,000. And 10 to the 5th power is like saying 100,000. Okay, leave this notebook open. Leave this notebook open so you can use your notes. And we're going to go in and we're going to practice together some actual practice problems. So find your class book page. We're just going to do a couple together. So today we are practicing multiplying whole numbers by powers of 10 that are greater than our basic fact, so greater than 12. So we need to turn to page. Oh, we're skipping 2. What am I doing, Miss Preston? Going to chapter 3. Page number, let's look at page number 83. We're going to do this top box together first. So we know that our powers of 10, or our exponents, can help us tell how many zeros there will be in a product of two numbers multiplied together if one's a power of 10, which clearly 1,000 is because of all those zeros. So let's practice with this. How many zeros will there be in the product of 39 times 1,000? Let's rewrite him down here. 39 times 1,000. How many zeros are going to be in the answer? Well, we're multiplying really by a power of 10. 39 times 1 is 39. But how many zeros in the product is based on the power of 10 number that I'm multiplying by? So in this case, there would be 3. And we can just show our work that way. So how do I know how many zeros? I'm going to look at the power of 10 factor, which in this case was 1,000. How about in 50 times 1,000? Well, we're just going to solve it right next to it. 50 times 1 is 50. I need to tack on 3 more zeros to get 50,000. So when we're practicing today in 3.1, multiplying powers of 10 numbers by a greater number, which is greater than 12, I can look at my number of zeros in my power of 10 number or my exponent to help me. So it says explain how to find the product, remember that means the answer to multiplication, of 90 times 10 to the 4th power. Well, let's rewrite it. We don't need to explain in words, we're going to show our work. 90 has a 0 in it, but do you know what 90 times 1 is? Of course you do. Anything times 1 is that number. My exponent reminds me that this is equal to 10,000 because he's going to have 4 zeros. So we're going to add 4 more zeros. And we get 900,000. So we have to take our 90 and tack on 4 more zeros. That's how we get 90,000. So when our first factor has a 0 in it, it can trick us a little bit. But we need to count that 0 as the number. We have to add that many more zeros if we're multiplying by a power of 10. So let's look at this pattern here. We have 60 times 1. You know what 60 times 1 is, and we can clearly see 60 times 1 in all these. That's 60. But what if it's 60 times 100? That means I need 60 hundreds. That means I need 60 hundreds. I have to tack on 2 more zeros to make 60 hundreds. How about 60 times 10,000? Well, here's that 60 times 1 again. I have to tack on 4 more zeros to represent 60 10,000s. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I get 600,000. So I have to tack on 4 more zeros. Okay, well, let's see what we multiplied 13 by. Well, here's my 13. What power of 10 did I multiply 13 by to get 13,000? Go ahead and write it if you know it. What missing factor did I multiply 13 by to get 13,000? Hopefully you put 1,000. Well, how about 10 to the 4th power? What factor did we multiply 10 to the 4th power to get 100,000? Well, now we got to work backwards. The 4 zeros is representing this guy. We have a 10 left, so that means we multiplied by 10. Okay. All right, let's practice down here one more. Let's do number 6. We'll do 2 more. We'll do we'll do number 6, and we already did this one on the board, so we'll do number 6 and number 13. 89 times 1, it says find each product. Hopefully you would know that 89 times 1, or anything times 1, would be 89. Well, now we got some patterns because we're going to multiply by powers of 10. 89 times 10, we would tack on 1 more 0 and get 890. How about 89 times 100? That means I need 89 hundreds. 89 hundreds would be equal to 8,900. If I was going to multiply 89 times 1,000, that means I need 89,000. Tack on 3 zeros. We should see a pattern by now. 89 times 10,000. Well, 89 times 1 is 89. Tack on your 4 zeros for 10,000. And we get 890,000. All right. Let's look at number 13, because that is represented with exponents. And you might see some problems. We did this one on the board together, where they're representing the powers of 10 with their exponent form. And you have your cheat sheet. Okay. So let's look at number 13. We have 10 to the 3rd power times 38. Okay, you're going to love when you see 10 to the 3rd power, because 10 to the 3rd power is the same as saying 1,000, and I would actually write that below it, times 38. So 1,000 times 38, or 38 times 10 to the 3rd power, means I need to have 38 thousands. Okay. All right. That is your notes lesson for lesson 3.1. Now, each math lesson, I should say, let's remember you are going into your SAVVAS tile. And you are going to work on Practice Buddy for your lesson that's assigned. And all this is in this assignment typed up for you. And you're going to do the quick check for the lesson that's assigned. We're doing this for every lesson now. Practice Buddy, quick check. Then you can go do your homework. Okay? So you've just finished all your lesson and your notes, your regular lesson and your notes lesson. You've got your notebook. You can rewatch this video. You can rewatch the other video. Then you are to go into your SAVVAS tile. This is all typed in this assignment for you as well. And you do your Practice Buddy assigned and your quick check assigned for lesson 3.1. Then you can do your homework and upload a picture of your homework problems. Okay, look to see what problems you're doing and what page you're on because we're in chapter 3 now. So for this lesson, I'll just tell you now, it's going to be page 27 and 28, but you're not doing all the problems. So I'll always tell you which problems to do on 37 or 27 and which problems you're going to do on 28. So always check your task assignment directions. All right, good luck, guys.